Okay, today's video is a little different. Today, I'm going over my top 10 paddles of 2024, and I know I'm a bit late to the party compared to the other reviewers, but this took me a beat to really think through, so I hope it's helpful. And to set expectations up the right way, I want to clarify that this list is a little different than a lot of the others you've seen posted. But before I explain how, I wanted to let you know there will be a massive giveaway at the end of this video for what I think is the top paddle of the year, so you'll definitely want to stick around for that. There will be 3 different winners, and it's the biggest giveaway I've ever done, so I'm super excited. And if you want to get a head start on entering, you can go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell. I also want to let you know I'm working on a video of my favorite pickleball accessories, but it's taking a little longer than I thought it would. But that's another reason to subscribe, because you really won't want to miss it. If you want a sneak peek, I've got a list down in the video description of a lot of the gear I've been testing out, as well as a link to all my favorite pickleball gear you can find on Amazon. On top of that, I'll leave a link to this t-shirt from one of my new favorite pickleball brands called Flamingo Pickleball. They've got a ton of awesome designs to choose from, and they're super high quality. Every time I wear one of their shirts to open play, I always get a reaction, and promo code MatthewK will get you a discount with them. I think they're definitely a company worth checking out. And now let's get into it. So how is this top 10 list different from all the other ones that came out at the end of the year? Well, this list is made up of my 10 favorite paddles from 2024. Not necessarily the best or even top paddles of the year, because I really don't think that kind of list is really possible. There's really no objective answer to the question, what's the best paddle? So for me, this list contains the 10 best paddles for me and the style of play I was focusing on in 2024. So this list leans heavily on the control side of things, which is what I was really working on last year. So if you're a player focusing on drops, resets, and the dinking game, this is the perfect list for you. To that end, I steered away from super powerful and poppy paddles for most of 2024. So you're not going to see any Matiers or Gearbox PPEs on this list. And I actually don't think that's a bad thing, as a lot of these super crazy power paddles are getting delisted and having their USAP approvals removed, and I'd hate to have fallen in love with the paddle last year only to find out I couldn't play with it anymore. Also, I should note, I didn't get to hit with every paddle released in 2024. So once again, these are just my favorite paddles I put a lot of time on. If you think there's a paddle I missed that I should really check out, definitely let me know down in the comments. And with all that out of the way, and with expectations properly set, let's get into it. I've broken my favorite paddles of 2024 into 4 main categories: control, all court, power, and budget. And then I also have a little bonus category at the end. So without further ado, I want to start with my favorite control paddles of the year. This category is great for folks that want to focus on paddles that help you control the ball with placement and help you with targeting your shots, as well as for players that prefer to steer the game towards dinking with drops and resets. In other words, these paddles are best suited for defensive-oriented players that want to prolong the point and wait for their opponent to make a forced error. And for lots of reviewers, this particular category is often led by the Mach 2 Forza from Volair. And I really love this paddle, especially the 14mm version after you add a little tungsten, and I did a whole video on this paddle in case you want to check it out. But the Mach 2 Forza's $162 price tag after promo code MatthewK is just a tad over some of the other options that have come out since it was released. And that's going to be a big theme and driving force for what paddles make this list: budget and value. On that note, I think Neonic's recent release of the Flare Titanium takes what makes the Mach 2 Forza so special, a super wide body that really catches the ball, and makes it even more control oriented by adding a polyester, also known as titanium, weave to its face, which really dampens the pop and makes dinking even more pleasurable. This actually might be my absolute favorite paddle for dinking I've ever hit with. Just like the Mach 2 Forza, that wide body face acts pretty much like a catcher's mitt, letting you grab any ball that comes your way and sling it back wherever you want. And it's no slouch in the power department, getting quite a bit of help with its Gen 2 construction. But the thing that really sets the Flare Titanium apart from all the rest is its price. After promo code MatthewK knocks off 10%, this paddle costs only $135, and that really undercuts Volair's price point by a substantial amount. I did a whole review on this paddle for anyone curious. But not everyone looking for a control paddle wants a wide body. Some folks really need some extra reach to avoid mishits. And while a control game often leans defensive with the shield shape of a wide body helping with blocks and resets, some folks would rather have a little bit of extra length on their paddle head as well to get some more power behind their drives with some additional plow through compared to a wide body or standard shape paddle. And that's where I think a hybrid shape control paddle really shines. And my favorite of the year was probably the Terra TC14 Pro from a small old school pickleball company out in Michigan called Temper. And I don't know what it is about Michigan, but they just really know how to make paddles out there. Temper has some really good company with Paddle Tech and Kiwi Labs being their neighbors. However, I really don't see Temper's paddles out in the wild too much out here in SoCal, which is a shame because I think a lot of folks' games would be improved if they had one of their paddles. And up until the release of the Gen 2 Terra TC14 Pro, Temper really focused on Gen 1 construction paddles and getting really creative with their shapes. I don't think there's another paddle company out there with such a variety of shapes to choose from as Temper. They just have a super unique selection. And I reviewed the Terra TC14 Pro a while back, but there haven't been too many other videos on this paddle. Jacob over on All Drive No Drop did a solid review, but he added quite a bit of weight to increase the pop and make it lean power. But for me, I like to play this paddle stock. It has super great ball feel coming from the way Temper did the core with some great flex in the paddle that really lets you position and target the ball. I think it might have to do with the fact that this paddle isn't unibody, so the face material doesn't run down through the handle. Lots of folks used to think that was a knock against a paddle because the old Ben Johns Yola Hyperion was built like that and would often snap at the neck. However, if you're playing a control-oriented game, I really don't think that should be an issue. And I have a theory having a bit of a joint at the paddle neck gives you some extra cushion or flex that really softens the pop and gives you the feeling that you have more dwell off the face, which helps you be super precise as you target. And that's really where the Terra TC14 Pro shines. I did a whole review of this paddle for anyone interested. And I really do hope folks will take a flyer on this company because I think they're doing some really cool stuff. Has anyone else played with a Temper paddle? What'd you think? Let me know down in the comments. And I should also note, Temper offers a 9-month handle warranty, so that should give you some peace of mind if you're concerned about it not being unibody. And while its price tag of $159 after promo code Matthew K knocks off 20 bucks is a tad over that prized $150 mark, I really don't think you can go wrong adding this one to your arsenal. I think you'll be hard pressed to find a hybrid paddle that has the ball feel of the TC14 Pro while also giving you access to so much driving power on bigger swings with that extended build. It just plays super, super unique in my opinion. Finally, my last pick for the control paddle category is another super unique paddle that took the shield-like shape of the Mach 2 Forza but made it into a machine gun in the pop department, and that's the Apollo from Spartus. This paddle uses a 100% DuPont Kevlar surface combined with what I think is a very crisp feeling core build to create a wide body paddle that plays super aggressively. Unlike the other paddles in this category, this one is less about slowing down and dragging the point out to wait for your opponent to make a mistake, and is more about being aggressive with counters while having a massive face to catch and throw back anything that comes your way, and ramping up the pace to really tangle your opponent and mess them up. So it's a control paddle through and through with that massive face and low 108 swing weight. However, its style of defense is the way someone might play defense in basketball, by being super aggressive and pushing their opponent to take a shot without being 100% ready. So instead of waiting out the point like the other control paddles I've discussed, the Apollo pushes you to put pressure on your opponent to make their move and hopefully force an error to end the point quickly rather than prolonging it and playing the waiting game. And after promo code Matthew K, this thing is only 117 bucks, making it the lowest priced paddle in this category. I do have a dedicated review of this one as well, and it really is an unbeatable value in my opinion. And if you like the sound of how the Apollo plays, but you want to take the aggressiveness up a notch without playing a full power game, you might want to consider looking at an all-court paddle. This is actually my favorite kind of paddle, as I'm an all-court player that leans control, and the top paddles for this category were really easy for me to figure out. All the way back in March of 2024, I predicted this paddle would be the paddle of the year, the Honolulu J2K in 16mm. Here's that video from way back for anyone that wants all the details. And while I can't reveal if it made the #1 slot for me just yet, it seems like it did for a lot of other reviewers, including being Pickleball Studios, aka Chris Olsen's top paddle of the year. And all this hype is very justified in my opinion, because this is just a freaking great paddle. Like the Spartus Apollo we just discussed, the Honolulu J2K uses 100% DuPont Kevlar surface. However, the J2K is a hybrid coming in at 16.3 inches long, and this is by far my personal favorite shape. And the thing that really separates Honolulu's J2 shape from so many other hybrids is that Honolulu widened out the bottom shoulders a bit around the neck. So while you might have a tad less room for two-handers, you have a massive amount of stability, and the sweet spot feels freaking huge. I feel like you have to go out of your way to miss hit with this thing. As for hand speed, the J2K cuts through the air super quickly. It's very easy to maneuver, and whips are a breeze. And that's a huge part of my game, so that's really important to me. And I'm such a fan of this paddle, it was my main for pretty much all of 2024. And at $135 after special promo code Matthew Kevlar knocks off 20 bucks, this thing is a massive value. And the only other all-court paddle that rivaled the J2K this past year in my eyes was, well, another paddle from Honolulu Pickleball, and that's the J2 Titanium. This is pretty much the exact same paddle, except the Kevlar surface has been swapped out with a polyester, also known as titanium, weave that adds an extra bit of plushness to your hits. So it makes dinking really easy with a super pleasant ball feel off the face with your softer hits. However, in my opinion, Honolulu's cores play a bit stiffer than other paddle companies, so you still have plenty of pop whenever you have any amount of power behind your swing. This really is a Goldilocks paddle for me, and after my normal promo code MatthewK, it's only $139.50, so just a few dollars more than its Kevlar sibling. So it's really up to you. If you want more pop, go J2K. If you want maximum plushness, go J2 Titanium. They're both incredible all-court paddles, so good I don't have another all-court to recommend. So let's move right into my top power paddles of 2024. And for this category, I need to remind you what I said at the top of the video. 2024 was all about control for me. However, 2024 was not about control for a lot of paddle companies. We saw the introduction of Gen 3 tech and a real arms race between paddle companies for who could create, release, and sell the most powerful paddle. And ultimately, that resulted in a lot of controversy. And I mean a lot. Paddles would release one day, be delisted by USAP the next, cease to be available to customers, be released again under another name. Then even a rival regulation body came to the scene to undercut USAP, an organization in part controlled by the very paddle companies being delisted and reprimanded. It was just a mess this past year. But what it all ultimately resulted in was the power ceiling being raised overall for the game. And while the height of that ceiling and exactly where it stops is still being sorted, it's clear pickleball has changed for forever. But I don't think that means everyone should be getting one of these new super powerful paddles. In my eyes, some of these Gen 3 paddles should be the tool you turn to when you're trying to work your way from a 3.7 or a 3.8 into that revered 4.0 plus level of play. And you could definitely get a bazooka arm cannon before you reach that point, but then you're going to have to eventually learn control and placement while fending off missile strikes from folks that can bang as well as place and target. And I think that would get pretty frustrating fast. So my favorite power paddles of 2024 aren't the poppiest and most hard-hitting paddles out there, but they are paddles that I think perform well in all aspects of the game while also giving you a dramatic boost on your drives, your serves, and your putaways. I think you could easily get one of the following power paddles even if you're below a 3.5 and play just fine with it. So now that I can take a step down from my soapbox, the first power paddle of 2024 that I'd like to recommend is Standout Pickleball's CF3 Power Paddle. And for folks that don't know Standout, it's a pickleball company based in Australia that's from one of the OG founders of famed 6-0. And the owner is also a professional pickleball player, and you can really tell someone that knows their stuff has really fine-tuned their line of paddles. And it's not just swing weights and twist weights with their paddles, each one just feels really nice. It's sort of an intangible that you sort of need to experience, but I think it's the result of having such a good player in charge of the line. And I already made a whole video a while back arguing the CF3 is the perfect paddle for anyone hunting for a 6-0 double black diamond with an extended handle. Here's the link in case you want to watch it. And since that video, 6-0 has actually released their own version of an elongated DBD called the DBDE, or the Double Black Diamond Elongated, which I also reviewed this past year. However, I think the CF3 Power is probably a closer successor to the OG DBD than 6-0's take, because this paddle kept the 16mm core buildup of the original, while 6.0 opted for the less common 15mm core design. And I know that sounds negligible, but to me, 16mm just has a better feel than 15mm. And if I'm going to go thin, I want to go 13mm or less. Anything in between typically has a feel off the face that I just don't love. And I want to love how the ball feels off the face, and I definitely do with the CF3 Power's 16mm design. Also, this paddle's extended handle is perfect for two-handers and whips, and it feels even more powerful on harder swings than its advertised 118 swing weight suggests. And I just love how plush and grabby its carbon fiber face feels on soft hits. As for price, power paddles always charge a bit of a premium. However, after promo code MatthewK, the CF3 Power is only $153, just a few dollars more than that $150 mark I love. So I think it's a super great value. Now, if you want a really similar paddle, but with a bit more pop at the kitchen on softer hits, I think 11SIX24's Hurache-X Control Plus is the paddle I would recommend. It plays super similarly to the CF3 Power I just talked about, but it's got a noticeable increase in pop on softer hits, in my opinion, likely because it has fiberglass blended in its face layup. It has so much pop, in fact, I think adding a little weight is pretty crucial. And I do have a couple go-to weight recommendations for anyone curious. This one here is Bodie's tungsten tape, which comes in both 0.5 gram per inch and 1 gram per inch strips. And then I also like these really cool pre-cut tungsten strips called balance pods from Enhanced Pickleball. Those cost a little bit more, but I love how they're the exact same footprint as the old pre-cut lead we all used to use. I have links for both brands in the description, and promo code MatthewK will save you some money with either as well. And that extra pop coming from the Hurache-X Controls fiberglass also gives you a little extra something on bigger strokes too, making the Hurache-X Control Plus quite a powerhouse from the baseline. However, this paddle is actually being replaced with the new Hurache-X All Court. I'll be reviewing the updated version soon, but the owner of 11SIX24 has explained to me that the new version is actually built a bit differently and should have even more pop and power than the original. And apparently the fiberglass layer will be close to the core, so the soft game should have even better touch. I'm really looking forward to checking this one out, as I think even an incremental improvement on the original would make for a phenomenal paddle. As for price, it looks like 11SIX24 is still keeping it super competitive. After promo code MatthewK, the updated Hurache-X All Court will cost only $140. Finally, my last power paddle recommendation from 2024 is the Neonic Flare Prime X. I did a huge video breaking down what makes this paddle so special. Here's the link for anyone that wants to check it out. But basically, you get very, very comparable pop and power to the much pricier PaddleTech Bantam paddles, but at a fraction of the cost. The Flare Prime X costs $126 after promo code MatthewK, knocks off 10%, compared to the PaddleTech Bantams, both the esq and alw-c flavors, $250 price tag. And that's just an insane value for what you're getting. A wide body power paddle that has more dwell and arguably better ball feel than the super popular PaddleTech options. I think this paddle is going to have a place in my bag for a long time, and it's one that's incredibly easy to recommend at that $126 price point. And if you want all the reasons why, definitely check out my review of this one. But more than anything, I think it's super exciting to see how paddle companies are really experimenting and finding ways to eke performance out of their paddle designs in unique and innovative ways. I think Neonic is going to be a company to definitely watch this coming year. Okay, before I wrap up, I also want to highlight the top budget paddles of the year. This category is often led by the Vatic Prism options for a lot of reviewers, which are Gen 1.5 paddles that cost only $90 after promo code MatthewK. And those really are the standard bearer when it comes to budget paddles. And by the way, the Prism now has another shape option as of this year called the Bloom. I'm super excited to hit with this one, as I'm not sure there's another wide body Gen 1.5 paddle out on the market right now. However, as far as value goes, I think Honolulu might have Vatic beat in this category, as their OG J3 shape with a carbon fiber face seems to be on a permanent super sale. This paddle is Gen 2 construction, but it's super control oriented with a shape that's very forgiving with a massive sweet spot. So this paddle is great for beginners and is something you can really use for a long time as you progress and get into more competitive brackets. And compared to a Gen 1.5 paddle, the J3's Gen 2 construction will give you access to more power on drives and serves as well as putaways. And I actually have a special promo code for Honolulu Super Sale paddles, which I don't think there are a lot of floating around. So if you use promo code MatthewK on this one, you'll save an extra $5, making it only $95, which is just a great deal. But if you want the absolute best deal in pickleball while still getting a paddle that's USAP approved from a reputable company with a great warranty, then this is the one you should look at. This is the Eternal from a company called Phantom Pickleball, and it's a standard shaped paddle with a 14mm core that uses 6mm cells instead of the typical 8mm cells. And there really aren't a lot of paddles using actual narrow cells, and that's a real shame in my opinion, because that extra density in the core really absorbs and then shoots back energy, really giving you a power boost. And after promo code MatthewK knocks off 20%, this thing is a full-on steal at $68. The performance of this paddle is absolutely bonkers for the price. The touch and feel is super solid, and Phantom's work on the core really lets you access power whenever you want. Also, all of Phantom's paddles have some of the best feeling handles you can find on the market, even the budget Eternal. So don't let the eyes on the face scare you away, because this thing will let you be a monster on the court while giving you plenty of extra cash to buy extra balls, because you're probably going to be cracking a few more with this thing. Oh, and did I mention this paddle has a limited lifetime warranty? That's pretty crazy. How many other companies offer that these days? Let me know down in the comments if you know of any others. Okay, that rounds out my favorite budget paddles of 2024. So that's 10 paddles, and that was really hard to narrow down. As for who claims the #1 spot for me as paddle of the year, well, I've got one more paddle to talk about before I reveal the overall winner. So technically, this is the 11th paddle of the bunch, but I really wanted to shine a light on it. And that's the PKOLL Quiet 2 Kevlar from another company out in Hawaii called PKOLL. PKOLL is a company focused entirely on small face paddles that really perform at tournament level, as long as the person wielding one of their paddles is accurate. And this paddle plays really well. I've had the chance to hit with a number of PKOLL's paddles, and they're all awesome, but the Quiet 2 and 16mm with this Kevlar face is a real powerhouse with great touch and feel. And when you're playing your best and you pull this thing out of your bag, it's super rewarding. It's also a great paddle to hit with when you're teaching other folks the game or playing against folks at lower levels. And it performs way better than any trainer paddle, and I've hit with a ton of those as well. As for value, after promo code MatthewK, you can grab one of these from PKOLL's site for $135. And depending on where you are with pickleball, this really is worth the price in my opinion, because one, it can make games that would be boring super fun, and two, it's also a great tool to really work on your accuracy without having to sacrifice power and pop, because its fully thermoform Gen 2 build performs super well. This paddle is just incredibly unique, and I highly recommend it for anyone that has some extra cash to just have fun. This is a paddle I don't think anyone would regret pulling the trigger on. But before I reveal my top paddle of the year, I wanted to highlight today's featured accessory. Today, we're checking out a pair of pickleball shoes from Diadem. And for anyone that doesn't know, Diadem is a company that's been around a long time. Their Warrior line of paddles and early adoption of foam cores with the Vice paddles have been around open play for just about as long as I've been playing pickleball, as well as their Icon paddles, which I see pretty regularly out here in Los Angeles as well. But I never knew much about their shoes. However, I've had the chance to test out their recent release, the Diadem Court Burst, and I'm a big fan. And anyone that's watched my channel knows I'm a longtime fan of Winner's Edge P38 pickleball shoes, which I've already reviewed. I just think there are real advantages to choosing shoes specifically designed for this sport, where there's a lot of sidestepping and short bursts compared to many other sports. And that's where the P38s really shine. However, I don't think everyone is a fan of the P38's bulkier design, which are probably best suited for doubles where there's much less quick footwork compared to singles. I think the P38's ankle support and rigidity is more like an old school basketball shoe, whereas I think Diadem's take on pickleball shoes with the Court Burst are much more in line with traditional tennis shoes, which makes sense as these appear to be marketed for tennis as well. For me, these shoes felt very quick because of the reduced bulk. However, it doesn't appear that it's at the cost of shoe longevity, which is one of the most important things to me when it comes to pickleball shoes. I really like how the toe box is protected with a rubber fitting that seems super durable, but they took care to only place the rubber where you might drag your toe rather than adding unnecessary weight and making it the entire front of the shoe. As for the rest of the shoe's build, it's constructed from a breathable fabric that seems once again super durable. There's no specific part of this shoe that seems like it will wear out super quickly, which is once again something I look for with pickleball shoes. Also, the back of the shoe has a raised lip that makes putting on and taking off the shoes super easy, so no shoehorn needed with these. As for the soles, they've held up super well so far, and I'll be sure to pin a comment if they seem to wear out really fast. So far, so good. And then these do utilize some sort of EVA foam in the heel, but I'd say you still feel very secure and close to the ground, even with that added foam. These don't feel like Mizuno's or are super squishy, which I think is a good thing for dedicated pickleball shoes, as I like to feel my feet contacting the ground. I also really appreciate that Diadem has some non-white options. I really don't like white pickleball shoes myself because they just get dirty way too fast out here on all the not so clean courts I typically play at in Los Angeles. Lastly, I'd say these shoes are pretty true to fit, with the midsection maybe leaning slightly wide, but not by much. As for value, after promo code Matthew K knocks off 10%, these only cost $135, which is right in line with other pickleball shoes. However, Diadem did just post on their site pre-orders for a new model called the Court Flow, which are only $103.45 after promo code Matthew K, which seems like a really good deal as well. I'll try and get a pair and follow up with how they compare, but on paper I'd say the Court bursts here are probably a little better for folks looking for maximum speed and maneuverability. However, if you're a more casual player focused on dinking that takes their time moving up to the kitchen, the upcoming Court Flow shoes might be worth checking out as well. And that's all I've got. Diadem has been around a while now, and I'm glad to see they're not resting on their laurels and are still pushing the envelope on the innovation front. I'm currently testing some of their paddles, and they're putting some cool tech in their gear that I'm really excited to talk more about, so stay tuned. And now it's finally time to reveal my top paddle of the year. As I said earlier, I predicted the J2K from Honolulu being the top paddle of the year way back in March of 2024, but I was wrong. My favorite paddle of the year actually turned out to be the Honolulu J2 Titanium, which now comes in this awesome gold color. And for me, I think the J2 Titanium has very comparable pop to the J2K, but a little bit of a plusher ball feel on softer hits coming from that polyester titanium weave. And this choice for me makes perfect sense since I was really focused on the soft control game this past year, so the J2 Titanium really turned out to be the perfect paddle for me. It does everything the J2K does, but takes the edge off ever so slightly on softer hits and dinks. And if you want more power, you can always add some weight. I really have nothing bad to say about this paddle. I think it's perfect. And I'm super pumped to share that Honolulu is letting me give 3 of these babies away for free. All you need to do is like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment what your 2025 pickleball goals are, and then fill out the Google form in the description so I have a way to contact you if you win. And that's how one winner will be selected. I'll choose 2 more winners from folks that do everything I just said, plus follow me on Instagram at Matthew K Pickleball. I'll be sure to include a link to my Instagram account in the video description, as well as the Google form for folks that want 2 extra chances at winning their very own J2 Titanium. And that's it. I'll run the raffle in about a month, so be on the lookout for an email. Good luck. And that's all I've got. If you found this video helpful, please consider using promo code MatthewK on your next paddle purchase to help support the channel. I have a lot of the popular brands listed below, and my master list has even more, and I'll be sure to leave links for all the paddle brands discussed in this video at the very top. And please note, my codes for Honolulu are a little different. Promo code MatthewK will knock 10% off the J2 Titanium and the brand new J2 Titanium Plus, as well as Honolulu's carbon fiber paddles. Promo code Matthew Kevlar gives you the biggest discount on their Kevlar lineup, including the recent Gen 3 J2K Plus, which I'll be reviewing very soon. While my special promo code Matthew K Sale works on their Super Sale paddles. So just thought I should mention all that. You can also support the channel by purchasing some of the cool pickleball gear I've been testing out by using the links and codes in the video description below. I also have a link to my favorite pickleball gear you can get on Amazon down there as well, and that's got some really cool hidden gems you wouldn't expect. And then of course, hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and slamming that notification bell all go a long way to helping me out as well. Thank you so much for the support. But most importantly, I hope you get to pickle soon, and just don't forget, it's about having fun.